My daughter said, "You're too old to fly with us. Just take care of the house." My name is Claire. I'm 57 years old and a widow for 5 years now. My daughter Amanda is 35, married to Jeff, who's 38, and they have 2 beautiful children. I've helped them financially for years, including the down payment on their house. This spring, I was so excited about our family vacation to Hawaii that I helped fund. Then came those words from Amanda, "Mom, you're too old to fly to Hawaii with us. Just take care of the house." If you've ever been taken for granted by family, let me know where you're watching from and subscribe to my channel as I share what happened next. David and I were married for 30 wonderful years before his heart attack took him from me. We both worked hard. Me as a 5th grade teacher, him as an electrical engineer. We weren't wealthy, but we saved diligently, lived within our means, and managed to build a comfortable nest egg for retirement. Amanda was our only child, the light of our lives. Growing up, she was definitely Daddy's little girl. David coached her soccer teams, helped with science projects, and taught her to drive in our old station wagon. I was more the disciplinarian, the one who made sure homework got done and vegetables got eaten. Still, we were close. I thought we were close. When Amanda met Jeff in college, David and I were cautiously optimistic. Jeff seemed ambitious, studying business administration while working part-time. He came from a middle-class family like ours. He was polite, brought flowers when invited for dinner, and seemed genuinely smitten with our daughter. Their wedding was beautiful and expensive. David and I paid for most of it, though we never complained. It was worth every penny to see Amanda so happy in her white dress, promising forever to a man who seemed to adore her. The trouble began subtly. After graduation, Jeff had trouble finding work in his field. Nothing seemed good enough. Too entry-level. Not enough prestige. Poor advancement opportunities. Meanwhile, Amanda was climbing the ladder at a marketing firm. They lived in a small apartment, and Jeff seemed increasingly resentful of their circumstances. Then came the house. They found a beautiful 4-bedroom in a good neighborhood, but the down payment was well beyond their savings. David and I stepped in, contributing $75,000 toward their home. We even put my name on the deed as co-owner, though at the time it was just a formality to help with the mortgage approval. "We'll pay you back, Mom," Amanda had promised. That never happened. When the grandchildren came along, first Zoe, now 8, and then Tyler, 6, I was overjoyed. Being a grandmother gave me a new purpose, especially as retirement approached. I'd spend weekends with them, teaching Zoe to bake my famous apple pie and helping Tyler build elaborate block towers. Those early years were precious. After David died, something shifted. The visits became less frequent. The calls grew shorter. But the requests for help multiplied. Babysitting on short notice, financial loans that were never repaid, expectations that I'd be available whenever needed, but not intrusive when inconvenient. I noticed Jeff becoming more entitled with each passing year. The ambitious young man who once brought flowers now barely looked up from his phone when I visited. He'd made it to management level at a tech company, and suddenly our home was dated, our opinions old-fashioned, our ways not how people do things now. Through it all, I made excuses. They were busy. Raising children is stressful. Amanda was just going through a phase. She'd appreciate me again someday. I kept giving. My time, my money, my love, hoping to maintain my connection to the only family I had left. Last fall, I had a minor stroke. Nothing debilitating, thank goodness, but a warning sign. I spent 3 days in the hospital. Amanda visited once for less than an hour, complaining about the parking situation and leaving early for Zoe's dance recital. "It's not even a real stroke, Mom," she'd said, scrolling through her phone. The doctor said it was just a TIA, right? You'll be fine. She didn't offer to help when I came home, though my friend Marlene stayed with me that first week, making sure I took my medication and could navigate my daily routine. I recovered well. My doctor said my health was good for my age, that I was physically active and mentally sharp. I joined a water aerobics class at the community center and started taking daily walks. I was determined not to become a burden to stay independent and vibrant for years to come. Perhaps that's why it hurt so much when Amanda implied I was too old, too fragile to join them on vacation. After everything I'd given them after working so hard to stay healthy and involved, I was being dismissed like an outdated appliance. No longer useful except for house-sitting and dog-watching while the real family enjoyed paradise. I didn't know then how that dismissal would change everything between us, how those careless words would make me reevaluate not just our relationship, but my entire approach to my remaining years. I didn't know I was about to learn the hardest lesson of my life, and teach one in return. It all started during a Sunday dinner at my place back in January. Amanda, Jeff, and the kids came over for my pot roast. A rare family gathering these days, unless they needed something. "We've been thinking about a summer vacation," Amanda mentioned while helping me clear the table. "The kids are at good ages for travel now, and Jeff could use a break from work." "That sounds wonderful," I said, genuinely happy for them. "Any ideas where you might go?" Jeff jumped in. "We're thinking somewhere warm, Florida maybe, or California." "What about Hawaii?" I suggested. "I've always wanted to go. Your father and I talked about it for our 35th anniversary, but..." The unspoken ending hung in the air, but he died before we could. Amanda and Jeff exchanged looks. That silent communication married couples develop. "Hawaii would be amazing," Amanda said slowly. "But it's expensive, especially for a family of 4. I recognized an opening when I saw one. "Well, I'd be happy to help with the cost. It could be my treat for all of us. A family vacation, my gift." Jeff's expression immediately brightened. "That's incredibly generous, Claire." "Are you sure, Mom?" Amanda asked, though I could see the excitement already building. "Absolutely. I've been saving for something special, and what could be more special than making memories together?" And just like that, the Hawaii trip was born. I contributed $15,000, nearly wiping out my fun money account, but it felt worth it. The thought of seeing my grandchildren experience the ocean, the possibility of spotting whales, the family dinners, watching the sunset. It all seemed priceless. Over the next months, I immersed myself in the planning. I bought travel guides and researched family-friendly resorts on Maui. I found articles about the best activities for children Zoe and Tyler's ages. I even started a packing list, though the trip was still months away. I called Amanda regularly with ideas. "There's a submarine tour where the kids can see coral reefs without having to snorkel," I'd say. Or, "I found a luau that's supposed to be especially good for families." At first, Amanda seemed to appreciate my enthusiasm. "That sounds great, Mom. Add it to the list." But gradually, her responses grew curt. "We'll see," or, "Jeff and I will decide on activities when we get closer to the date." I bought new vacation clothes, lightweight pants, comfortable walking sandals, a wide-brimmed hat to protect my face from the sun. I even started swimming more regularly at the community center, building my stamina for beach days. "You're certainly excited about this trip," my friend Marlene commented over coffee one day. "It's all you talk about lately." "Is it?" I laughed. "I guess I am. It's been so long since I've done anything special with Amanda and the family. It feels like we're finally reconnecting." Marlene gave me a look I couldn't quite interpret. "Just make sure they're as invested in this as you are, Claire. I don't want to see you disappointed." I brushed off her concern. Of course they are. Amanda's just busy with work and the kids. But this vacation will give us quality time together, away from all those distractions. But red flags were appearing that I chose to ignore. When I mentioned sharing a room with Zoe to save money, Amanda quickly said they'd already decided on room arrangements. When I suggested splitting our time between 2 islands, Jeff insisted they'd already settled on staying put in Maui. Gradually, I was being excluded from the planning process. The family vacation I was largely funding was being organized without my input. Still, I told myself not to be sensitive. The important thing was that we'd all be together in Hawaii making those precious memories I'd dreamed of. Then came the dinner invitation 2 weeks before the scheduled departure. "Can you come over Tuesday evening, Mom?" Amanda asked over the phone. "We need to finalize some details about the trip." "Of course," I said, thrilled to finally be included again. "I'll be there." I spent the day reviewing my packing list one more time, printing out articles about Hawaii's cultural sites to share with the family. I even packed a small suitcase with some of my new vacation clothes, thinking we might discuss what to bring for different activities. I had no idea I was walking into the most hurtful conversation of my life. I arrived at Amanda and Jeff's house with my suitcase and a folder of Hawaii information, buzzing with excitement about our upcoming adventure. The moment Amanda opened the door and saw my suitcase, her expression changed. That's when I first sensed something was wrong. "Mom," she said, her voice strained as she glanced at my luggage. "Come in. We need to talk." In the living room, Jeff sat stiffly on the sofa. The children were nowhere in sight, probably upstairs playing video games or watching TV. The atmosphere felt heavy, uncomfortable. "Is everything okay?" I asked, setting down my materials on the coffee table. "Did something happen with the reservations?" Amanda and Jeff exchanged that look again, the one that excluded me from their silent conversation. "Mom," Amanda began perching on the edge of the armchair across from me. "We need to discuss the Hawaii trip arrangements." "Great. That's why I brought all this information." I reached for my folder. "I found some wonderful—" "Mom," she interrupted more firmly this time. "The thing is, Jeff and I have been talking and we think it might be best if you didn't come with us to Hawaii." The words hit me like a physical blow. I struggled to comprehend what she was saying. "What? But I don't understand. I've been helping plan this trip for months. I paid for most of it." Jeff leaned forward, his corporate management demeanor taking over. "Claire, we appreciate your financial contribution, we really do. But this needs to be a vacation just for our immediate family." "But I am your immediate family," I protested, my voice sounding small even to my own ears. Amanda sighed. "Mom, you're 57. The activities we're planning are pretty strenuous. Hiking, snorkeling, surfing lessons. After your health scare last year, we're concerned it would be too much for you." "My doctor says I'm in excellent health," I countered. "I've been swimming regularly, taking walks every day. I'm perfectly capable—" "It's not just that," Jeff cut in. "We need this time as a young family, the 4 of us, without having to worry about accommodating different needs." I looked to Amanda, hoping for some defense, some acknowledgement of how hurtful this was. Instead, she nodded in agreement. "Mom, you have to understand. Families need independence. We need to create our own traditions, our own memories." "With my money," I said quietly. Amanda had the grace to look uncomfortable. "We can pay you back over time if that's the issue. It's not about the money," I said, though of course it partly was. "It's about being excluded from my own family. After everything I've done." "This is exactly why," Jeff interrupted. The constant reminders of what you've done for us. It creates an unhealthy dynamic. I felt tears threatening but fought them back. I wouldn't cry in front of Jeff. I refused to give him that satisfaction. Just then, Zoe and Tyler thundered down the stairs, momentarily lightening the oppressive atmosphere. "Grandma!" Tyler exclaimed, running to hug me. "Are you excited about Hawaii? I'm going to build the biggest sandcastle ever." Amanda shot Jeff an alarmed look. Clearly, they hadn't told the children about their decision to exclude me. "Actually," Amanda said, her voice artificially bright, "Grandma is going to be doing something very important while we're gone. She's going to be taking care of the house and Charlie." Charlie was their 3-year-old golden retriever. The betrayal cut deeper. Not only was I being disinvited from the vacation I'd largely funded, but I was also being relegated to the role of house sitter and dog walker. "Can't Charlie go to the kennel?" I asked, struggling to keep my composure. "He gets anxious at kennels," Jeff replied. "And it would be an added expense." Of course. The expense. Always careful with their own money while freely spending mine. "So, you want me to stay here and watch your house and dog while you enjoy the vacation I paid for?" I clarified, making sure I understood the full extent of their audacity. "It would really help us out, Mom," Amanda said, as if she were asking for a small favor rather than delivering a devastating rejection. "And you love Charlie. You two get along so well." I looked at my grandchildren's innocent faces, then back at my daughter. In that moment, I didn't recognize her. Where was the thoughtful girl I'd raised? When had she become this selfish woman who could hurt her mother so callously? "I need to go," I managed to say, standing abruptly and gathering my things. "So you'll do it?" Amanda asked hopefully. "Watch the house and Charlie." I couldn't believe she was still pressing the point, but looking at her entitled expression, something inside me shifted. A lifetime of accommodating, of making excuses, of putting everyone else first. It all suddenly felt exhausting and wrong. "I'll think about it," I said coldly, picking up my suitcase. "I need some time." The drive home was a blur. Tears streamed down my face as the full weight of the rejection crashed over me. I was good enough to provide money, childcare, and house sitting, but not good enough to be included in family memories. I was too old, too burdensome. A complication rather than a loved one. When I finally pulled into my driveway, I sat in the car, unable to move, my chest heavy with grief. Then I did something I rarely did. I called Marlene and asked her to come over right away. "They did what?" she exclaimed when I told her what happened. Her outrage was validating a confirmation that I wasn't overreacting. "I've given them everything," I sababaed. "Money, time, love. And this is how they repay me." Marlene handed me another tissue. "The question is, Claire, what are you going to do about it?" I looked up confused. What can I do?" "You can stop being a doormat," she said firmly. "You can show them there are consequences for treating you this way." At the time, I had no idea what those consequences might be. But as I cried myself to sleep that night, something was shifting inside me. A seed of resolve was taking root. This wouldn't be the first time Amanda and Jeff took advantage of me, but I was beginning to think it should be the last. The week after Amanda and Jeff's bombshell was one of the darkest periods of my life since David's passing. I cycled through emotions like a washing machine. Shock, hurt, anger, depression, disbelief. Sometimes all within the same hour. I barely left my house. Friends called, but I let most go to voicemail. I picked at food without tasting it. Sleep came in fitful bursts, interrupted by painful replays of Amanda's words, "You're too old." As if my age made me less deserving of consideration, less worthy of inclusion. less human. Marlene, bless her, refused to be shut out. She showed up on my doorstep with groceries and tough love. "You can't keep hiding, Claire," she said, making coffee in my kitchen as if she owned the place. "That's exactly what they want, for you to just accept their behavior without consequences." "What would you have me do?" I asked listlessly. "They're my only family." "That doesn't give them the right to treat you like garbage," she countered. "And they're only treating you this way because you've allowed it." Her words stung, but I recognized their truth. Over the years, I'd established a pattern. I gave and gave. Money time, childcare, emotional support, without expecting much in return. I'd taught Amanda and Jeff that my feelings were secondary, my boundaries flexible to the point of non-existence. "I keep thinking about all I've sacrificed for Amanda," I said, memories flooding back. The career advancement I turned down to attend her school events. The vacations David and I postponed to help pay for her braces, her college tuition. How can she not see that? "Because you've never asked her to see it," Marlene replied. "You've never stood up for yourself." The next day, I went to my regular therapy session with Dr. Levine. I'd started seeing her after David died, and though our sessions had become less frequent, I was grateful for her perspective now. "What we're seeing is a pattern of enabling," she explained after I recounted the Hawaii situation. "You've prioritized your role as a giver in this relationship to such an extent that Amanda and Jeff now take it for granted." "But I'm her mother," I protested. "Isn't giving what mothers do? Healthy relationships involve mutual respect and reciprocity," Dr. Levine said gently. "Even between parents and adult children, especially between parents and adult children. The question now is, what boundaries do you want to establish going forward?" That evening, I found myself researching topics I'd never considered before: family boundaries, stopping financial enabling, standing up to entitled adult children. The articles and forum posts I discovered were eye-opening. So many parents in my situation, so many heartbreaking stories of generosity exploited and kindness mistaken for weakness. One phrase kept appearing: "You teach people how to treat you." I had taught Amanda and Jeff that my needs didn't matter, that I would accept whatever scraps of attention they offered in exchange for my continuous support. It was time for a new lesson. As I sat in my living room that night, scrolling through more articles, a thought suddenly occurred to me. The house, their house, would be sitting empty for 10 days while they enjoyed Hawaii. The house I had contributed $75,000 toward. The house where my name still appeared on the deed as co-owner, a fact I had nearly forgotten. I set down my tablet and walked to my home office, where I kept important documents in a filing cabinet. There it was, the paperwork from the home purchase 5 years ago. My name clear as day, listed as co-owner with Amanda. We had done this to help them qualify for the mortgage, but legally I owned 50% of that house. A plan began forming in my mind. Outrageous at first, then increasingly appealing. What if I didn't just house sit while they were gone? What if I exercised my rights as a co-owner? The next morning, I called Susan Parker, a real estate agent I knew from my book club. "Claire, it's lovely to hear from you," she said. "What can I do for you?" "I'm curious about property values in Oakwood Estates," I said, naming Amanda and Jeff's neighborhood, specifically for 4-bedroom homes around 3,500 square feet. "They're doing very well," Susan replied. "It's a seller's market right now. Properties in that area are going for around $800,000 to $900,000 depending on upgrades and lot size. Are you thinking of buying?" "Not exactly," I said. "I'm actually a co-owner of a property there already. I'm exploring my options." By the end of our conversation, I had scheduled a private consultation with Susan for the following day. I also made an appointment with Richard Goldman, an attorney specializing in real estate law. As I hung up the phone, I felt something I hadn't experienced in days: empowerment. For the first time since Amanda's rejection, I wasn't just a victim of her callousness. I was a woman with options, with rights, with the power to make choices that prioritized my own well-being for a change. Of course, doubts crept in. Was I overreacting? Would this destroy my relationship with my daughter forever? What about my grandchildren? Was I punishing them for their parents' actions? But then I remembered Amanda's casual dismissal, Jeff's condescending tone, the easy way they had relegated me to dog walker status after I'd given them so much. Something had to change, or this pattern would continue indefinitely. That night, when Amanda called with more detailed house-sitting instructions, I maintained my composure. "The security system code is 4392, she said. "Make sure to set it whenever you leave the house, even just to walk Charlie." "Of course," I replied, my voice neutral. "And Charlie needs his medication twice a day with food. The pills are in the kitchen cabinet above the refrigerator." "Got it." "Are you writing this down, Mom? It's important." "I've got it all, Amanda. Don't worry about a thing. Your house and Charlie will be perfectly fine while you're gone." That much at least was absolutely true, just not in the way she imagined. Once I committed to my plan, I approached it with the same methodical care I'd used during my 30 years of teaching. First research, then organization. Finally, execution. My meeting with Richard Goldman, the attorney, confirmed what I had suspected. As a co-owner of the house, I had every legal right to sell my interest in the property. Since Amanda and Jeff had never formalized any agreement about how my $75,000 gift toward the down payment would be treated legally, it was considered my equity in the home. "You could force a partition sale," Richard explained, "where the entire property is sold and the proceeds divided according to ownership percentage. Or you could sell just your interest to another party, making them co-owners with your daughter and son-in-law." "Which would you recommend?" I asked. "A clean break is usually best in family situations," he advised. "A partition sale gives everyone a fresh start, but I should warn you, this will likely cause significant family conflict." I nodded, the weight of my decision heavy on my shoulders. "I understand, but I think the conflict is already there. It's just been one-sided until now." With Richard's guidance, I filed the necessary legal paperwork to initiate a partition sale. The court would eventually force the sale of the entire property, but given the circumstances, an empty house with co-owners on vacation, Richard advised me we could expedite things by finding buyers immediately and having them ready to close as soon as Amanda and Jeff returned. Susan, my real estate agent, was surprised by my decision, but professional in her approach. She arranged for a quick appraisal which valued the house at $850,000. Given the strong market and desirable neighborhood, she was confident we could find buyers quickly. "I know a young couple who've been looking in this area for months," she told me. "They're pre-approved for financing and can move quickly. Would you like me to contact them?" "Yes," I decided. "Let's move forward." Jackson and Tara Cohen were in their early 30s with a 9-month-old daughter. He worked in software development. She was a pediatric nurse planning to return to work part-time. They had been outbid on 3 houses already and were growing discouraged about finding a home in a good school district within their budget. When they toured Amanda and Jeff's house while my daughter and her family were at a pre-vacation dinner with Jeff's parents, they fell in love with it immediately. "The backyard is perfect for Emma as she grows up," Tara said, bouncing her baby girl on her hip. "And the kitchen is just beautiful." "We can offer $830,000, Jackson proposed. With a 30-day close, but we could be flexible if the owners need more time to move out. I explained the unusual situation, that I was a co-owner forcing a partition sale, that the other owners were currently unaware that there might be complications. To their credit, the Cohens didn't balk. "We understand family situations can be complex," Jackson said diplomatically. "We're still interested if you're willing to work with us through any issues that arise." As their offer was fair, and they seemed like lovely people, I accepted. Susan prepared the paperwork, and I signed my portion. All that remained was to wait for Amanda and Jeff to return from Hawaii to deal with the fallout. But there was still work to be done before their return. I couldn't bear the thought of family photos and heirlooms being lost in the chaos that would ensue, so I systematically went through the house, carefully packing up anything with sentimental value. I found Amanda's baby book in the attic, along with boxes of her childhood drawings and school projects that she had stored and forgotten. I discovered photo albums from her wedding, the children's birth announcements, even the handprint art they had made in preschool. All these treasures I carefully packed and moved to a storage unit I had rented. I also removed several items that were technically mine, gifts I had given that had special meaning, a few pieces of furniture that had belonged to David and me that we had passed on when they bought the house. I wasn't being petty. I was preserving what mattered most before the storm hit. For the rest, their clothing, furniture, kitchen items, and everyday possessions. I hired a moving company to pack everything carefully and transport it to another larger storage unit that I paid for in advance for 3 months. I made detailed inventory lists of every box, every item, so nothing would be lost or unaccounted for. Throughout this process, I experienced moments of doubt and heartache. Finding Zoe's baby blanket that I had knitted while waiting for her to be born. Discovering Tyler's collection of seashells from our trip to the beach 2 summers ago. Each item carried memories, connections to a family life I was now disrupting. But then I would remember Amanda's dismissive words, "You're too old," and Jeff's condescending tone, and my resolve would strengthen. I wasn't doing this out of spite. I was finally standing up for myself after years of being taken advantage of. I was teaching them that my contributions mattered, that I mattered. The house closing with Jackson and Tara happened 3 days before Amanda and Jeff were due to return from Hawaii. My share of the proceeds, after paying off the portion of the mortgage attributable to my ownership interest, came to just over $200,000. I used some of that money to secure the storage units, to put a deposit and first month's rent on a lovely 2-bedroom condo in Sunset Gardens, an active adult community across town, and to retain Richard's services for the inevitable legal battle ahead. The remainder I put into a separate account untouched. I wasn't sure yet what would become of it. Perhaps a trust for my grandchildren's education, perhaps a nest egg for my own future needs. Time would tell. On the day Amanda and her family were set to fly home from Hawaii, I took Charlie for one last walk around the neighborhood. The golden retriever had been my constant companion throughout this ordeal, blissfully unaware of the human drama unfolding around him. "You'll be okay, buddy," I told him, scratching behind his ears. "They'll take good care of you." I had arranged for Charlie to stay with me at a pet-friendly hotel until Amanda and Jeff got situated. I couldn't bear the thought of him being displaced or confused in the chaos that would follow. As I looked at the empty house one last time, I felt a complex mix of emotions, sadness for what had been lost, anxiety about what was to come, but also surprisingly peace. For the first time in years, I had prioritized my own well-being. I had refused to be diminished, dismissed, or taken for granted. Whatever happened next, I would face it with the knowledge that I had finally found the courage to stand up for myself. That alone felt like victory. While Amanda and her family were enjoying their final days in Hawaii, posting beach photos and sunset views on social media without a thought for the house sitter back home, I was embarking on my own journey of transformation. With Charlie as my companion, I moved into a small suite at the Extended Stay America. I had packed just enough for a couple of weeks, planning to settle into my new condo once the initial storm passed. The hotel wasn't fancy, but it was clean, allowed pets, and gave me the anonymity I needed during this transitional period. After years of putting everyone else's needs before my own, it felt strange, almost guilty, to focus on my future. But each time doubt crept in, I reminded myself of the context, my generous financial support, my constant availability, my willingness to help, all taken for granted and ultimately rewarded with exclusion and disrespect. The partition sale of the house had yielded me just over $200,000. After setting aside money for potential legal expenses and securing the storage units, I had enough to make a substantial down payment on a comfortable condo in Sunset Gardens, a community for adults 55 and older on the other side of town. The community offered amenities I hadn't even realized I was missing: a pool, tennis courts, a clubhouse with weekly social events, walking paths around a small lake. During my tour, I met several residents near my age, many of them also navigating life as widows or widowers. For the first time since David's death, I glimpsed the possibility of a social life beyond family obligations. "You'll love it here," said Patricia, a silver-haired woman who introduced herself during my visit. "We have book clubs, movie nights, even group trips to the theater downtown, and everyone respects each other's independence. No dropping grandkids off without asking first." She'd laughed after saying this, not knowing how deeply her words resonated. Independence, respect, consideration. Basic courtesies I had stopped expecting from my own family. The 2-bedroom condo I chose had a bright open floor plan with large windows overlooking a garden area. The second bedroom would serve as both a guest room and a craft space where I could return to quilting, a hobby I'd abandoned during the busy years of helping with grandchildren. As I signed the purchase agreement, I felt a lightness I hadn't experienced in years. This place was mine, paid for, with my money chosen for my preferences, designed around my lifestyle. No compromises to accommodate others who wouldn't do the same for me. With my housing secured, I turned my attention to another dream long deferred. Using a portion of the house proceeds, I booked a 10-day Hawaiian vacation package for myself and Marlene. We would stay at a beachfront resort on the Big Island, take a helicopter tour over volcanoes, attend an authentic luau and snorkel in crystal clear waters. "Are you serious?" Marlene exclaimed when I told her. "Claire, this is fantastic, but are you sure you want to spend your money this way?" "I'm absolutely sure," I replied. "Life is too short to keep waiting for permission to enjoy it. Besides, my doctor says I'm perfectly capable of handling strenuous activities like snorkeling and hiking volcanic trails." We both laughed at that, the bitter edge of my joke softened by the genuine joy of planning our adventure. As the day of Amanda's return approached, I found my anxiety mixed with a strange calm. I had done what needed to be done. The pieces were in place. Now, I just needed to weather the storm that would inevitably come when my daughter discovered what just taking care of the house had actually entailed. The morning they were due to land, I took Charlie to a dog park, letting him run and play, while I sat on a bench rehearsing what I would say when the phone inevitably rang. It didn't take long. At precisely 2:17 p.m., my cell phone lit up with Amanda's name. I took a deep breath and answered. "Mom." Her voice was shrill, panicked. "Mom, something's happened to the house. We just got home and there's a sold sign in the yard and all our stuff is gone. What's going on? Were we robbed? Did you call the police?" I maintained a calm tone. "No, Amanda. You weren't robbed. Then what happened? Where's all our stuff? And why is there a sold sign, Mom, what's going on? Her voice rose with each question. I sold the house, I said simply. There was a moment of stunned silence before she exploded. What? You can't sell our house. That's insane. That's illegal. Actually, it's not, I replied, still keeping my voice level. I was a legal co-owner. My name has been on the deed since you bought it, remember? When I contributed $75,000 to your down payment. As a co-owner, I have the legal right to force a partition sale, which is what I did. But, that's our home, she sputtered. Where are we supposed to live? Where's all our stuff? Your belongings are safe in a storage unit. I've paid for 3 months in advance. Charlie is with me at a hotel until you find new accommodations. I could hear Jeff in the background now, his voice rising as Amanda presumably explained the situation. Then he was on the phone. Claire, this is absolutely unacceptable, he said, using his business negotiation voice. Whatever point you're trying to make, this is not the way to do it. We'll be contacting our lawyer immediately. That's your right, Jeff, I acknowledged. My attorney's contact information is Richard Goldman. I'll text you his number after we hang up. Attorney. Amanda was back on the line, sounding both furious and bewildered. Mom, why are you doing this? How could you do this to your own daughter, to your grandchildren? That's when I finally allowed some emotion into my voice. How could I? The same way you could tell me I was too old to join a family vacation I largely paid for. The same way you could relegate me to house sitter and dog walker status after all I've done for you. The same way you've taken me for granted for years, accepting my financial support while treating me as an inconvenience. So this is revenge? She asked incredulously. You destroyed our lives for revenge. No, Amanda, this isn't revenge. This is me finally standing up for myself. This is me refusing to be used and discarded at your convenience anymore. You've lost your mind, she said coldly. Dad would be ashamed of you. That barb was designed to hurt, and it did, but I wouldn't let it derail me. Your father taught me the importance of self-respect, Amanda. That's a lesson I should have passed on to you much earlier. I failed you in that regard, and I'm sorry, but it's not too late for both of us to learn it now. She hung up without another word. I sat on the park bench watching Charlie chase a tennis ball, feeling the weight of decades lifting from my shoulders. The hard part had just begun, but for the first time in years, I felt true to myself. Whatever came next, I would face it without apology for finally putting myself first. The aftermath of my decision unfolded in waves. First came the legal threats, then family fallout followed by grudging acceptance, and finally, though it took much longer than I expected, the beginnings of a new kind of relationship with my daughter. True to his word, Jeff consulted an attorney immediately. I received a formally worded letter 2 days after their return, threatening legal action for fraudulent conveyance and breach of fiduciary duty. Richard assured me these claims had no merit given my clear co-ownership status and the fact that the sale was conducted at fair market value. They're posturing, he explained. Testing to see if you'll back down. Stand firm. Meanwhile, the practical reality of their situation began to sink in. Amanda, Jeff, and the children moved into an extended stay hotel like mine, though I imagine theirs was considerably more upscale. Jeff's parents lived in Florida and couldn't offer housing assistance. Amanda's close friend Stephanie offered their guest room, but the space was too small for a family of 4 plus a golden retriever. Word of what happened spread quickly through our extended family and social circle. People took sides as people do. My sister-in-law, Janet David's sister, called me in tears. Claire, How could you make the children homeless? This isn't like you. They're not homeless, Janet. They have resources. They both work. They have savings. And they received over $600,000 from the house sale after the mortgage was paid off. But still, it seems so extreme. Others were more supportive. My cousin Elizabeth sent flowers with a note that simply read, "About time." My former colleague Martin emailed, "David would be proud of you for standing up for yourself." These messages buoyed me during difficult moments. A week after their return, I arranged to meet Amanda at a coffee shop to give her the keys and information for the storage unit. I chose a public location hoping it would keep the conversation civil. I also brought Charlie ready to return him to the family. I arrived early, securing a quiet table in the corner. When Amanda walked in, the strain of the past week was visible on her face. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her typically polished appearance was noticeably subdued. "Hello, Amanda," I said as she sat down across from me. Charlie, who had been lying quietly under the table, perked up at her arrival, tail wagging. She acknowledged me with a curt nod, then reached down to pet Charlie. "At least someone's glad to see me." I slid an envelope across the table. "This contains the keys to the storage unit, the address, unit number, and a complete inventory of what's inside. I was very careful with your things, Amanda. Nothing was damaged or discarded." She took the envelope without opening it. "Jeff wanted to come today, but I told him I needed to talk to you alone first." "I appreciate that." A tense silence stretched between us. Finally, she spoke, her voice tight with controlled anger. "I still don't understand how you could do this, Mom. All because we asked you to house sit. Because we wanted one vacation as just our family unit." I took a deep breath. This was my opportunity to make her understand if she was willing to hear it. "It wasn't about one vacation, Amanda. It was about years of being taken for granted. Years of giving, financially, emotionally, with childcare, with housing support, and receiving little consideration in return. The Hawaii trip was just the final straw. The way you dismissed me as if I were too old and feeble to participate in a family vacation that I largely funded, it forced me to reevaluate our entire relationship. So you decided to make us homeless, to upend the kids' lives. I decided to stop enabling a dynamic that wasn't healthy for any of us. You and Jeff have good jobs. You have savings. You received substantial proceeds from the house sale. You're not destitute or homeless. You're experiencing consequences." She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. "You've changed." "Yes," I acknowledged. "I have." I finally realized that by always putting myself last, I was teaching you that it was acceptable to put me last too. That's not a lesson I want to keep reinforcing. The kids miss their home. They don't understand what happened. I miss them too. More than you know. But children are resilient, and this is an opportunity to teach them important lessons about respect and consideration, about not taking people for granted." Amanda's eyes filled with tears, the first genuine emotion beyond anger that she'd shown. "I never meant to take you for granted, Mom. It became so normal to rely on you. You were always there, always willing to help. I stopped thinking about what it cost you." This small acknowledgement, this tiny crack in her defensive armor, gave me hope. Not for an immediate reconciliation, we were far from that, but for the possibility of building something healthier in the future. "I've moved into a condo at Sunset Gardens," I told her. "When you're ready, when we've all had some time to process this change, I'd love to have the children visit. I have a room for them." She nodded non-committally, then glanced at her watch. "I should go. We have an appointment to look at rental houses this afternoon." As she stood to leave, taking Charlie's leash, she paused. "Jeff wants to sue you. He says we can prove you acted in bad faith. That's his right, I replied calmly. But I hope you'll both consider whether prolonging this conflict is really in anyone's best interest. She left without committing either way. I watched her walk away with Charlie feeling both the pain of separation and the satisfaction of finally standing my ground. It was a bittersweet moment. The loss of what was alongside the potential for something more authentic to grow in its place. Over the following months, the threatened lawsuit never materialized. Whether due to legal advice about its slim chances of success or a recognition of the emotional toll it would take, Jeff and Amanda eventually abandoned that approach. They found a rental house in a neighboring school district, allowing the children to finish the school year without changing schools. It wasn't as spacious or prestigious as their previous home, but it was comfortable and in a nice area. Initially, my contact with the family was minimal and strained. I sent birthday cards to the children with modest checks enclosed. I emailed occasionally asking how everyone was doing, receiving brief, perfunctory responses. 3 months after the house incident, I left for Hawaii with Marlene. The trip was everything I had dreamed it would be. Breathtaking scenery, exciting activities, yes, including snorkeling and hiking delicious food, and most importantly, the freedom to enjoy it all at my own pace with a friend who valued my companionship. You know what I love about this trip? Marlene commented as we watched the sunset from our beachfront lanai. There's no schedule but the one we choose, no accommodating anyone else's preferences, just us enjoying life. Exactly. I agreed, raising my Mai Tai in a toast. To living life on our own terms. When I returned tanned and rejuvenated, I found a surprising voicemail on my phone, Amanda asking if she could stop by my new place sometime. Just her without Jeff or the children. She came the following Saturday, obviously uncomfortable but making an effort. She commented politely on my condo, accepted the offer of tea, and even looked through my Hawaii photos when I offered to show them. You look happy, she observed, studying a picture of me on a catamaran wind in my hair smile wide. I am happy, I confirmed. Happier than I've been in a long time. After some awkward small talk, she finally came to the point of her visit. The kids miss you. They keep asking when they can see Grandma. I miss them too. They're welcome here any time. She nodded, then added hesitantly, Jeff is still angry. He feels like you betrayed us, but I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about taking you for granted. I didn't want to admit it, but you were right. It was a small concession, but significant coming from my proud daughter. I never meant to hurt you, Amanda. I just needed to establish boundaries I should have set long ago. By selling our house, she asked, a flash of the old resentment surfacing. By refusing to continue in a relationship where my contributions were expected, but my presence was optional, I corrected gently. The house was just a symbol of that larger dynamic. We didn't resolve everything that day, not by a long shot. But it was a beginning, a tentative step toward understanding and perhaps eventually forgiveness on both sides. The children came to visit the following weekend. They loved exploring the community, especially the duck pond behind my building. I kept their favorite snacks on hand and set up the guest room with books and toys they enjoyed. Your new house is small, Grandma, Tyler observed with a child's directness. Yes, it is, I agreed. But it's just the right size for me. Over the following year, a new pattern emerged. The children visited regularly, sometimes with Amanda, occasionally even with both parents, as Jeff's anger gradually subsided. Our interactions became less strained, more genuine. I maintained my financial independence, politely declining when they hinted at needing help with various expenses. Instead, I focused on creating experiences and memories with my grandchildren, museum visits, baking projects, attendance at their school events. I also continued developing my own life. I joined the community choir at Sunset Gardens, took a watercolor class, even started dating occasionally. Nothing serious, just dinner and companionship with men I met through friends or community activities. One day, about 18 months after the house incident, Amanda arrived alone for coffee on my patio. After chatting about the children and her work, she grew serious. "I've been seeing a therapist," she confided, "working through some things about our relationship, about patterns I don't want to repeat." "That's wonderful, Amanda. I'm proud of you for doing that work." She helped me see how I've been repeating behaviors I learned growing up. Expecting you to always put my needs first, never questioning the sacrifices you made. It wasn't fair to you. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. We all do the best we can with what we know at the time. I played my part in our unhealthy dynamic too. I'm trying to teach Zoe and Tyler differently, she continued. About respecting others' boundaries, about appreciation. That's the best legacy we can leave them. I agreed. Our relationship today isn't perfect. There are still moments of tension, old hurts that occasionally resurface. Jeff remains more distant, though civil. But we've found a new equilibrium based on mutual respect, rather than expectation and obligation. I sometimes wonder if I could have found another way to make my stand a less dramatic method of changing our family dynamic. But then I remember the years of smaller attempts that went unheeded, the gentle suggestions ignored, the mild protests dismissed. Sometimes a seismic shift is necessary to create true change. In forcing that shift, I lost some things. The unconditional adoration of grandchildren who don't fully understand what happened, the comfortable familiarity of old patterns, the illusion of perfect family harmony. But I gained something far more valuable: self-respect, authentic relationships based on choice rather than obligation, and the freedom to live my remaining years fully and joyfully on my own terms. If you're watching this and recognizing yourself in my story, always giving, rarely receiving, feeling taken for granted by those you love most, I hope you'll consider whether your current patterns are truly serving you. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the most necessary, standing up for your own worth, even when those closest to you have forgotten it. Have you ever had to take a dramatic stand to change an unhealthy dynamic in your life? How did it turn out? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's never too late to teach people how to treat you with the respect you deserve. Thank you for listening, and remember, your worth doesn't diminish with age or change with circumstance. It remains constant, waiting for you to recognize and honor it.